all of our webinars are recorded and will be on our Facebook page. So you can subscribe to our Facebook page, which I will send an email out to you all tomorrow to have a link to the Facebook page. So all of the webinars that we've done throughout the years are housed there, including this one. But it's always great to be live because you get to ask the panelists questions. And so if you hover over the black screen at the bottom, you'll see a chat box, a chat. That's where you can ask questions. So if you have any questions throughout the presentation, please feel free to write it in the chat, and we'll be able to I'll be able to field those questions throughout the presentation. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce Ann Yaros. She is our supervisor for K2 ELA in Hillsborough County Schools. ELA stands for Elementary Language Arts, and I'm going to have her introduce herself. But without further ado, I'm going to turn it over to Ann. Ann, welcome.
Hi, thanks, Ms. Fullwood. I'm so happy to be here today. So welcome, families. Thank you so much for joining us so that we can talk about English language arts for grades K through 5. As she said, my name is Ann Yaros. I'm actually the supervisor of grades 3 through 5 for our intermediate grade levels, but I work really closely with a great team of people. So we have a K through 2 supervisor as well. Her name is Megan Parento. We work very closely together along with a K-12 writing supervisor and a K-12 social studies supervisor, because if you didn't know, your ELA block, your child's ELA block involves all of those subject areas: reading, writing, social studies. And if you're K through 2, we have phonics as well. So my job is really to develop a plan for implementation of all of our ELA curriculum, as well as create content and assessments for our district. So I'm going to do my best to answer all your questions today, but if there's something I can't answer, please know that I will go back to the team and find out an answer for you and get back to you through Ms. Fullwood. So the first thing I want to talk about today is actually our Ready LAFS curriculum. While this is a newly adopted program for our core curriculum, a lot of our schools in Hillsborough have already been using LAFS, either as their core instruction, which means their main instruction, or as a supplemental material that they use in small group instruction. So what it is a 5-day cycle based on our state standards for reading. And we call it a gradual release model, so that each one of the days is a different kind of instruction. Day 1 is our introduction, and this would be where the teacher is actually taking the lead role. They're telling the students about the objective, the target, and the standard for the day, and the students are really making connections to that new learning. On day 2, we have the modeled and guided instruction, where the teacher is actually providing a think aloud for students. And a think aloud means that I, as the teacher, am going to read a text, and then I'm going to talk about what I'm thinking as I'm reading through it. And this really helps students to understand, like, what should I be thinking as I'm reading through this text so that I can better understand what I read. Students then take this and they practice with a partner. But on day 3, you can start to see on my little visual here that it starts to shift away from that teacher direction and where students take more responsibility for their learning. So day 3, we've got that guided practice, and we really want students to be able to work together with their peers, either with a partner or in a small group, because it allows them to work together, challenge their thinking processes, and really grow. So research shows that students and children learn better from their peers than they do from an adult standing in front of the classroom and reading them a lecture of a lesson. So we've really tried to incorporate a lot of engagement strategies where students get to work together. On days 4 and 5, it's called independent practice. So really what's happened is, okay, I've shown you what to do on day 1. We've practiced what to do on days 2 and 3 together as a group. And now days 4 and 5, show me what you know. Show me if you can do it on your own. And it's really a great strategy to be able to show your teacher, am I getting it or do I still need extra help? And that helps me as the teacher be able to go back and say, okay, I need to provide some extra supports for this group of students or this group of students in this area. And then I can change my instruction to better meet the needs of each and every student within the classroom. So that's the gradual release model for LAFS. Here's what a sample of one of your student books looks like. And each one of the days is set up as a read, think, talk, write routine. The lessons are aligned to our state standards, and they really focus on one individual skill for the week. So that's what they're doing during that read process. They're going to read multiple selections of text, but those texts directly align to what the standard is saying. So for instance, most of the students have been participating in what main idea and detail is. So they really have this explicit instruction of, okay, what's main idea and detail? Let's give you some passages to be able to read to pick out those main ideas and details. And our focus is then to think about what we're reading, think about how we're applying that skill to what we're reading, but then we want to give them an opportunity to talk about it. And we want them to work with their peers and see that collaboration coming together of ideas to be able to fix and change our thought processes in order to master that standard. So after we've gone through the read, think, talk part, then we really want students to be able to draw a conclusion and apply what they've learned in writing. So research shows that while being able to explain your thinking verbally is very effective, in order to really get the learning gains that you're looking for students, we want them to be writing. So you're going to see a lot of writing components involved in the read, think, talk, write routine. And it's really essential to that growth that we're looking for within students.
Okay, Anne, I want to stop right here, pause
Yeah,
just for a second.
perfect.
I have two questions.
Okay.
Does the teacher still have autonomy on what is read?
So yes, there's a lot of options. There are multiple selections within the LAFS text that they can use many articles from. They also can use the Achieve 3000, which I will talk about in just a couple slides here, that provides informational text that they can share with students. And we always encourage our teachers to bring in some of their favorite literature as well. Especially in the K through 2, they have built-in read alouds that go along with their LAFS core text. And so we want them to be able to use that high quality literature as well. The same goes within our small group instruction. We really encourage teachers to pick out those favorite novel studies and lessons and incorporate that to kind of propel our students forward and give them the independent reading time that we want our students to have.
Thank you. And the second question is, should students in e-learning be provided opportunity to work together? Hers is not given that opportunity.
Yes, so it is a challenge, but we have encouraged our e-learning teachers to really promote that collaboration piece on Zoom, and it can look a lot of different ways, and I think that can be a challenge. So we're still trying to help our new novice e-learning teachers come up with some of those collaborative strategies. Within Canvas itself, which is in a couple slides as well, that you will see that they have discussion threads where they can answer a question and then they can reply to their peers as well and interact that way. They can interact via Zoom with the teacher and with their class. And we've really encouraged teachers to try and think outside the box and use shared documents so that a teacher can share one document but have multiple students working on the same type of activity. So it'll vary in level depending on each teacher.
Thank you. You can go ahead.
Okay. So here's just a sample of what a day one introduction would look like inside of that LAFS book. So it talks about the focus of the week. This one in particular is a third grade one about describing cause and effect relationships. Students are almost always presented with a visual to get them thinking about the specific skill for the week. And as a teacher, I would actually ensure that my students understand the bolded words and know that those are academic vocabulary words. And I would take those bolded words with the italicized words and create an anchor chart with that. And an anchor chart is just a big poster that you like to put in the front of your room. You can even use them on e-learning as like a virtual poster so that students can refer back to it throughout the week's lessons. So this is really the foundation of the target of the week's learning. So in addition to that Ready LAFS core curriculum, we have some other supplemental materials that you're going to find within our elementary schools. One of those is SIPs. So kindergarten through second graders are using the SIPs program. It's called the Systematic Instruction in Phonological Awareness, Phonics, and Sight Words, which is a big mouthful. So basically what it is, though, is a structured program that teaches our students the foundations of reading. It's all about letter names, letter sounds, blends, sight words, and spelling patterns, all things phonics and phonemic awareness. So our phonics is just our letter sound relationships, while our phonemic awareness is the blending and segmenting of sounds to make words. So when we put them together, we're teaching students the basics of learning to read and spell. So each SIPS comes with a recommended sight word list. Check with your child's teacher for a copy of that list because practicing reading, writing, and saying these words will really help your child gain confidence in learning to read. So students participate in daily whole group lessons of SIPs in K through 2. So along with SIPs, K through 2 also utilizes a computer-based program called iReady. iReady differentiates lessons according to your individual child's needs. Students work in reading and in math lessons that are all on their level. So this program is great for documenting learning gains for your child and can be done at home as well. And I will show you how you can access that in a few slides. We also use the program in grades 3 through 5 as well as a support for learning for any students who are maybe performing below grade level. So we're going to watch this little mini video about iReady just to learn a bit more.
Hi, my name is Mark Bernstein. I'm a National Director at Curriculum Associates, and we are the iReady people. For the student, iReady serves two functions. Number one, it's an online diagnostic assessment that pinpoints math and reading skills down to the sub-skill level. And number two, it's online learning that caters to a student's specific needs, whether those needs are on, above, or below level. I'd like to share 4 things you need to know about iReady. Number one, the iReady online assessment is adaptive in nature. This means that students see questions based on how they're performing. If a student struggles, the questions get easier. If a student is breezing through, the questions become more challenging. Once a student completes the diagnostic, the teacher will know exactly what the student needs, so it eliminates the necessity to over-test our children, thus allowing more time for teaching. Number two, the iReady online instruction is personalized to the individual. Once a student completes the diagnostic, his or her results will differ from classmates. So we give each student their own pathway based on diagnostic results. If the student needs help with reading comprehension, that student will get lessons to help. If the student has geometry skills above grade level, that student will receive geometry content that's above grade level. Support for those who have gaps to fill, enrichment for those who are exceeding grade level expectations. Number three, iReady is not a grading tool. Your child won't get an A or C- based on how they perform in iReady. iReady supports students challenges students, gives students math and reading content that is right at their level. iReady helps children to grow, but it is not used to assign grades. And number 4, iReady is not designed to replace the teacher. In every school district, teachers are an irreplaceable asset. iReady supports teachers by helping group students with similar needs for targeted instruction, what we call differentiation. Once small groups are established, iReady's Teacher Toolbox is just one of the many resources that teachers may use to provide targeted instruction. But replace the teacher? Never. Thank you very much for watching this video. We look forward to seeing your students succeed with iReady.
And before you go on, while you're clicking back to the presentation, there's a question about the diagnostic score. Are those available for parents to view?
So I would definitely contact your child's teacher. I don't see any reason why you wouldn't be able to view and ask questions about that diagnostic. Definitely.
And then there was another question about how will parents be notified if their child is struggling?
So that should be happening soon because these first 9 weeks of instruction are coming up quickly. So you should be receiving a progress report within the next few weeks from your child's teacher and school. But every school is different on when they release that information to parents. So make sure that you reach out to them early and often if you want to know that information and be able to keep up with it.
Thank you.
So we've talked a lot about kind of the extra programs that we have in K through 2, but we also have them in 3 through 5 as well. So this year we're going to be using Achieve 3000. This is another computer-based program, and it specifically meets the needs of your student as well by analyzing their Lexile level and providing informational text for them to read and answer questions about at their appropriate learning level. So it's differentiated just like iReady is. They work through it like a computer program just like iReady does, and they're able to complete lessons on there and articles as well, and it helps and tracks their learning gains. So these texts are really rigorous in nature, but they're also really interesting and fun to read about. So they choose a lot of really good topics and they're very diverse. We also use them within the classroom as well because they align with science and social studies and humanities and social emotional learning. We like to use these articles within our core curriculum as well. So you will see, and you can ask your students about whether they're using Achieve 3000 articles. We try to connect them to our writing block so that students are reading multiple texts. They're reading their LAFS text as well as their Achieve 3000, and we pick 2 that match together in topics and standards, and then students will be writing to a prompt within their ELA core class. This is another program that students can use at home as well. So I'll show you how to be able to log in and find all of these programs so that if you want to go in and take a look and see what your child's working on, you can do that as well. So here's the big one, right? We know now that we live in a world where we have e-learning and we have brick and mortar learning, and we kind of have simultaneous learning as well, where we could be doing both. And a lot of the information, we're starting to move towards Canvas. So some of you may be Canvas experts and you know that your child's working through Canvas, and some of you may be novices and new to Canvas and might not know that we have a lot of resources available on Canvas. So if your child's an e-learner, we know that they interact with Canvas every single day. It's basically an online portal for these e-learning classes. That's where they're going to get all their teachers' information. And every teacher e-learning classroom is different. Some of them set them up with those cool Bitmoji pictures and classrooms, and some are very direct with their each and every days of assignments and samples, but that's where you can really go to see what your child's working on every single day. If I'm a brick and mortar teacher, I may not have a Canvas classroom that you can go and visit, but I can still post resources and put things on there. So really just check with your child's teacher, see if they're using Canvas. But if you're e-learning, I really suggest that you go with your child and take a tour together of what's on there so that you can see how it's set up, what the routine is, ask questions, because you can talk with the teacher inside Canvas as well. And you can follow along with student assignments. So I was a novice Canvas user at the beginning of the year, and I can tell you I've started to build out curriculum and assignments and engagement strategies and things like that in Canvas. So I have learned so much in these past few months alone just by being able to interact with that platform. So I actually want to pause and ask Ms. Fullwood specifically, are there any Canvas questions I can answer? Because I know that's a big one.
There are regarding
Okay,
the
figured.
report, yes, regarding the report card. If the parents are not able to create a parent account in Canvas, how do the parents, or how will the parents receive a report card? And
So
then,
that's a really
go ahead.
good question. That's probably going to vary from teacher to teacher and school to school. You should be able to request a paper document be either sent to your home or be available to pick up at the child's home-based school, but definitely reach out to them and find out the best means of getting that report card, because you want to be able to keep track of their progress and how things are going.
And then there was a question about Achieve 3000, or all of these programs, are they available for grade 6 students who may be struggling in ELA?
That is a really good question. So we are actually using Achieve 3000 in our middle schools as well. So that is available for them to work through as well. I don't remember how high Iraty goes, but if you have a student who's in 6th grade and they are still struggling, a year behind, 2 years behind, they should be able to log on to Iraty and continue to work through those lessons, even if it's just at home because you're looking for an additional support for your student. We might just need to find out how to get them an account if they don't already have one. Now, usually they're already rostered if they have been in Hillsborough County Public Schools before. They should already have it within their Clever and be able to have a single sign-on access, but just have your child check and make sure if that's the support that you're looking for, and you can reach back out to us and we can find out how to get them that extra support.
We have 2 more Canvas questions.
Okay.
It says, if your child is not e-learning, should we still be logging into Canvas each day? Her child is kindergarten and face-to-face.
So that depends, because some teachers have made home pages through Canvas that they want, families to be able to check out. But I might be a brick and mortar teacher and I do not have a Canvas classroom for teachers to visit, and that's okay. That's not a mandatory thing that we've asked our teachers to do. So that's definitely an individual teacher basis. I would just find out how they're sharing information with families. Are they doing a newsletter? Do they have something that you can explore and get more information about? So that's an individual teacher type thing.
And then another Canvas question, it says that I go on Canvas all the time with my child, but there are so many things on there to choose from. Now, are all the apps listed on Canvas things we need to utilize and teacher specific, or is it all listed and we are told which apps our children need to use per each teacher?
So I'm curious if you're logging on to Clever, because when I log on to Clever, which is in a couple slides from now, that's where all my apps are listed. That's where you're going to see Iraty, Achieve 3000. You're going to see your Canvas login, your Zoom login, your PBS Kids login, your MyOn login. There's a ton of apps. So I have a feeling that that's what you're referring to. And that is a one-stop shop for you to be able to access each one you need. But you're right in that there are so many options there that I would check with your child's teacher specifically which ones they want them to use. The cool thing about Canvas, a lot of our programs link directly into Canvas. I believe that Iraty does and Achieve 3000 does. And that means that your child can go into their Canvas classroom, and then on the left-hand side, there's a window, a list, like a menu, and it'll say the specific program, and they can click on it and it won't take them away from their Canvas page, and it'll directly embed it within it so they don't have to be clicking in and out of different windows. Especially for our little guys, we find that that's really, really valuable. So I'm not sure if I answered your question. If you need a little follow-up question, I'll be happy to try and clarify. So feel free to retype that in the chat.
One more from Canvas. In Canvas, there is a navigation setting to move the app into hiding or view. Is that a statement or asking a question? Canvas, there is a navigation setting to move the apps into hiding or view. The teacher has to do that though. Oh, okay. It's a statement. Okay, great.
Okay, and I
Thank you
think
for that.
what they mean is that same menu I'm talking about on the left-hand side. Sometimes there's so many different things listed, and it is the teacher's job. They can go in and there's a little eyeball icon, and they can say, I only want you to see the assignments, discussions, and announcements for that day. So they can pick and choose what you see in that left-hand toolbar. So if you're getting kind of confused, like I see 10 different things on this left-hand side, and I'm not sure which one to pick, reach out to the teacher and find out, hey, which ones of these should I be focused on the most? And that way, you know, we always try and give them mini Canvas tutorials. They may not know that they can hide and show those icons. So that's definitely a good tidbit that we can share with our teachers.
Perfect. Thank you. And that was from a high school teacher, I guess, who has an elementary baby.
Woohoo! So I know this is the big question on everybody's mind is how can I help my child at home? There's so much going on that may be new or different this year, especially in the world of e-learning that we're living in. It's all different. And so how can I help support them and make sure that we're not falling behind and that we're pushing our students and our children and giving them to their most optimal potential? And here's my suggestion. Log on to all of these different programs that we have available to you, and you can do that through single sign-on in Clever. Every student in Hillsborough County has their Clever login. And if you've got little guys at home, K-1, who haven't quite memorized their username and password yet, reach out to the teacher and find out what those passwords are so that you can log in with your child and see all the wonderful resources that are available. So not only can students work through iReady and Achieve, but there's also really fun, engaging ones on there too. There's one called MyOn, which is basically a free library of books. So if you don't have a lot of books at home, you can go into this MyOn app through Clever, through this one, and pick out different read alouds every single night and read with your child. So that's pretty cool. So this is what the Clever website looks like, and you can log in as a student. Usually there is a naming convention. It's not district-wide, but it's usually school-wide. So it's usually the student number, and that might even be for the name, ID number, and the password. Just check with your child's school and teacher to find out what that is. And finally, read at home every single day. There's no more important activity for preparing to succeed as a reader than reading aloud together. Fill your story times with a variety of books. Be consistent, be patient, watch that magic happen. Take a trip to the library, make it fun, make it joyful, talk about stories, read to a pet or stuffed animal if you don't have the time during the day to be able to read as a family. Track the print as you read. That just means like using your finger as you read each of the words. And have children write about what they're reading as well. Make it a fun at-home activity. So all of that being said, what else can I answer for you here today? Is there anything I can clarify or just give advice about?
There is a question about a parent in charter schools. Will they have a login for Clever?
Oh, that's a good question that I'm not positive I have the answer to. So I will write that one down and see if I can find an answer and then get back to you.
What is the best way to find level appropriate books on MyOn?
So when you click through MyOn, you can search. I actually haven't been in there, so I don't want to say if it's grade level or Lexile or what it is. I would vote go in there, check it out, because they have different picture books. They also have chapter books and, you know, very interesting comic books on there. It's it's super engaging. We were actually using it with students at the beginning of the year because they hadn't been taking their diagnostic yet. And children really love to be able to go on there and explore what's for them. If you're looking for text that's specifically on your student's level and you want to be sure that you're challenging them, I would go with the Achieve 3000.
And I will piggyback off of that with MyOn. Once I send the link to our recorded webinars, there is a MyOn one. It's in English and Spanish that showed you that. So Michelle Rogers from MyOn did a webinar about MyOn to help parents navigate through it. So I would suggest that you check that out. Again, I'll post that link. You'll be emailed the link tomorrow. All right, some more questions. I'm so excited. All right, so have the articles in Achieve 3000 or any other district resource gone through Lexile?
Yes, both iReady and Achieve 3000 are balanced with the metametrics, and that's the national board that looks at the Lexile level. So both of them have been vetted and have research-based programs and are appropriate for our students.
Okay, I have some phonics question. If phonics is only taught through second grade, how can I help a third grader who is struggling to read? Is there SIPs for parents to use for third grade?
Yes, so the same SIPS kits that we use in K through 2, we encourage our 3 through 5 teachers to use the same resource as a supplement if we find that those students need extra phonics and phonemic awareness interventions. Also, iReady has a lot of foundational skills in phonics and phonemic awareness. So if you're trying to do something at home with your student, I recommend using that iReady program with them. That will really help reach them at their individual level.
Okay, perfect. Do schools provide a list of books that are age appropriate to help parents know which books to choose?
That's a good question. That's something I would have to check with the individual school level to see. We definitely have a Florida State reading list of Sunshine State readers that we like to share out, and I can definitely look and find out where that list is and make sure I get it to Ms. Fullwood, so then maybe we can post it on your the family website.
Here's a good question. What is the suggested time first and third graders should spend on iReady and MyOn after they come home from school that will support their progress in the classroom?
That is a really good question. And I think that's going to be on an individual basis for your child. You know, we don't want to overwhelm them or turn iReady into MyOn into something that isn't fun. So within the classroom, we try to aim to 45 minutes a week. And I would say that's probably a pretty good number to be doing at home, because that's between 10 and 15 minutes a day. That's not every single day. So you can kind of chunk it out a little bit. So I would recommend about 45 minutes a week, not a day, a week.
This is a question about Lexile. How do we know the Lexile level? Is that done through iReady assessments?
Yes, so iReady and Achieve will both provide a Lexile level. Now, what teachers have found is that when they give the diagnostics, that they're totally different. Like the Achieve one may be lower, the iReady one may be a lot higher, and here's why. So iReady, when they do their diagnostic, they like to incorporate informational text, but as well as that fictional text. So it really balances out that Lexile level for both genres of reading, whereas Achieve 3000 is just the informational text. So that's why I tend to say it's a little more rigorous and challenging. So if you're looking for like a good fit book for your child at home, or you want to go to the library and pick out good fit books, I would go with your iReady Lexile level.
Here's a good question about accessing the school library for options if the children are doing e-learning.
Mm-hmm. So I know our media specialists have come with the challenge of how do I get books into student hands, but also honoring our COVID protocols and our health protocols and our CDC guidelines and things like that, because we want to be careful about students touching multiple books and then disinfecting the books before we share with other students. So check with your child's school. I know that we want to get those materials into the hands of our students who are at home so that they have quality books to read. So reach out to them, find out if you can check out books from the school library. They should be able to accommodate you.
Great questions. Keep them coming. Okay, so on iReady, should I have them doing the My Path at home in addition to the teacher assigned lessons?
So I would leave the teacher assigned lessons for the school, like during the school hour ones, because it's possible that they assign them specifically for an instructional use within the classroom. And I would just have them use the My Path at home, because that's them just working at their own pace and their own level and their own lesson. So it's very individualized. So I would stick with the My Path.
Okay, it says my daughter scored mid fourth grade and late grade for 2 parts of the reading assessment, but much lower in the vocabulary part. She loves reading, so I don't have a problem in this area, but I was surprised about the vocabulary issue. Any specific recommendation for book-wise or resources I can get her help with? We have been doing the studying books on our own, but I don't want to overwhelm her since now she's doing the e-learning and it keeps her um, really busy.
Mm-hmm. So I will look into any additional resources I have to for vocabulary. I think what you're doing currently is probably the best route, is you're taking books she's already interested in and already reading, and you're talking about some of those words, and looking for context clues is really the biggest strategy, not resource, but a strategy we use when we're reading texts that are new or they're unknown. So like we like to go through and we'll annotate text is what we call it. And that just means that I'm circling and underlining main idea, key details, those cause and effect type things. But always on those first reads, we let students just read for understanding. And we go through and we ask them to circle any unknown words that they don't know. And when we go back to kind of like fill in some of those gaps, we'll ask them to look inside the sentence to see if we can infer what the meaning of that new word is. So that's basically just a strategy you can use and not a resource. And that way your student at home or your child at home is reading books that they've picked out, they're interested in, they love, and then you can just kind of help build that vocabulary strategy as they're reading something that they chose. But I can look into additional resources for you.
Okay, I have a question about, is it possible, it's a Canvas question. Is it possible, or Zoom rather, is it possible for the teachers to provide all of the Zoom links to the parents so that the parents can set up the reminder on the calendar in Canvas, or maybe the teacher can do that on the calendar and share with the parents, because one thinks the kids might struggle the most with what is going on all the time, correct lessons and Zoom meetings all the time.
So I would want to just double check with technology, because I know that teachers were directed like not to post their direct Zoom links into their Canvas courses. So there's got to be another place for them to be able to put it that's safe. And that's just a privacy thing. We want to be able to ensure that your students are safe when they're on an e-learning Zoom classroom. So I'm sure there's a protocol that would allow the teacher to be able to share those Zoom links with you so that you can create a calendar so it's a lot more streamlined and easy to use. Communicate with your child's teacher and talk about some of that frustration or issue that you're facing as far as struggling in multiple Zoom links. I know a lot of teachers are trying to use one Zoom link or 1 or 2 Zoom links, and they have students on there basically all day, but they'll have them just check in from time to time. So that way the student can mute their mic, they can close off their camera, they can work independently, and then they can get called back in. Another one I've seen is where they'll put the student in the waiting room, and that way we ensure that it's private and they're not listening to the other students in their small group instruction on Zoom. And then they can just let them in the waiting room when it's their time to go in from that one single Zoom log on. So we're all new at this and we're trying to refine our practice. So reach out and talk with your teacher and see what kind of problem solving you guys can do together.
Okay, I had a question about a fifth grader and time at home to read. What is a great like time? They do pages, like 25 to 30 pages. Is that appropriate? But feeling like the child may be getting a little bored.
Yeah, I would keep it down short and sweet, between 15 and 20 minutes. If you have a voracious reader that just loves it, and enjoys spending between 30 and 45 minutes, a night on doing that because that's what they love, that's wonderful. But we don't want to turn reading into a punishment. We want to make sure it's a fun activity, something that they look forward to, not something that they're like, oh, I've got another 30 minutes to do. So keep it short and sweet, 10, 15, 20 minutes. It's usually how I kind of guide when I think about my lessons as a teacher within the classroom. I have such a short attention span with my students before I lose them that I have to keep it light, exciting, and fun, and put everything in short, smaller chunks so that I can keep them engaged and listening and interested. And so I would say that same thing goes with independent reading time and family time at night, chunk it out.
Okay, here's another question. Having to use all these applications through e-learning, Zoom, iReady, MyOn, MobyMax, Achieve 3000, Pearson, realize I think Canvas seems to be way too many applications for elementary children. What is your take on that?
I agree. It's a lot of different programs and different apps, and especially for our little guys, K1 and 2, it can be a lot to learn how to click. And I can tell you that as a content writer, we have been trying our hardest to reflect on the items that we create when we push out, Canvas modules, to make sure that it's less clicking. It's less leaving the page. We're trying to put everything in one spot. So even though it is a lot of apps, I like the idea that everything's in one place on Clever, your single sign-on. You can pick and choose from there what you want to use and interact with. Um, and see what your child's teacher focuses, because even though I mentioned all of these different apps, mostly they'll be using iReady, they'll be using SIPs in the classroom, they'll be using iReady at home. That's your main go-to here. If you're an e-learning student, you can't really get around the Canvas and the Zoom. Those kind of go together. That's going to be your foundation of apps that your students need to interact with during the day. So I agree. It's a lot, but our students and our children are so smart and they're so much better at technology than I am. So that I think, with practice, with routine, with structure, they'll be able to pick it up and really use the programs the way they were intended.
Great, thank you for that. This next question, my daughter's struggling a little bit on reading and she gets really shy to read out loud in fear of getting some words wrong. Even though we encourage her and let her know that she's doing well, she will get it. We are here to help. What do you recommend to help her out with this?
So I would turn it into a play activity. So I have one of these read to a pet or a stuffed animal on here. I think that's a big one, right? It's because it takes away the audience. So then she doesn't feel like somebody's watching her. But you can also turn it into a tea party. You can turn it into a zoo. You can turn it into something. If you have an older kid, 3 through 5, that may be not developmentally appropriate, try the pet thing. Do you have a cat at home? Do you have a dog at home? Do you have a fish at home? Can they be reading to an animal or something like that? Or do they have a little brother or sister, a sibling that they can reach out to and read to as well? So just looking for a different audience, right? So if they're shy to read in front of an adult or a peer that's their same age, like let's try and switch it up and flip it and, put a different audience in front of them.
I know, and I want to share something that I used to do with my daughter who struggled with reading, and it was really specific to her. Like she wouldn't understand, so it was affecting her reading slow, and so what we did was bought a karaoke machine. And although you may know words to, or just now, now you can just go on YouTube and get songs. But sometimes you think you know the words to a song, but having to read them to, because she was struggling with her fluency, and that helped with fluency because it was karaoke night, and it wasn't, everybody was having fun with it, and she didn't realize I was working on her fluency.
I
But
love that so
yeah,
much.
so I always try to give people the suggestions that was given to me as a reading coach to help support my daughter who was struggling in fluency. Here's another question. It says, as parents, do they have access to SIPs or is it for teachers only?
So the SIPS program, the materials that they have are for teachers and are for the classroom. But like I said, if you are interested in finding out like what the SIPS site word list is so that you can start working on some of those foundational skills, that's definitely material that you can ask the teacher for. Now, SIPS doesn't have one of those cool, family resource pages. Like if you go and you Google Ready LAFS and, curriculum associates, like you're going to see that they have materials available for parents and families. And you're not going to find that so much with SIPs, but that doesn't mean that you're disconnected from it. If you're looking for some of those foundational resources, the teachers have access to like a SIPs toolbox. They have access to the site word lists. So it's just a matter of asking them to be able to share that with you.
I had two questions that were in the Q&A. If a student took the diagnostic and not concentrated on so how would the teacher know and can help in that situation? His son is in first grade and doing pre-K math.
Gotcha. So that is a really good question. And what we try to do with these diagnostics, and that's kind of why we take more than one, is triangulate data is what I like to call that. And we have multiple data points. So on the reading side of it, and my 3 through 5 side, I took an iReady diagnostic, I took an Achieve diagnostic, and I took a baseline for ELA. And I'm going to use all 3 of those data points to be able to check on my students' levels and where they're excelling, where they have some learning gaps, and I'm going to compare the 3 so that way I can ensure that maybe one isn't skewed, because a lot of times that happens, right? I've taken a test and I'm tired now. I'm going to Christmas tree my answers and then see what happens. So the teacher can look at that data and they can decide, all right, there's a huge discrepancy between this one and this one. I think we should retest. And they do have the ability to go in and do that, but it's a process. So if a teacher identifies a student that they would like to have retake the diagnostic, they just have to go through the proper channels, which basically means it comes through my office. And then we go directly to iReady or Achieve and ask them to reset the diagnostic for that specific student, and then they can retake it. But you don't have to retake it if you don't want to, because what happens is if your child, didn't perform as well as they should have, they'll be able to progress through the program quickly because it's adaptive. It's responding to how the students are working through it. So if the work's too easy for them, they're getting everything right, it's going to propel and move them forward. They also do check-ins. So both iReady and Achieve have check-ins along the way. So where they reassess and look and see how many gains they're making as far as those Lexile levels go. And so it's always learning and adapting to your individual student. So you have 2 options. You can retake it, or you can monitor their progress as they're going through the program.
Awesome. I think we have 2 more questions. Well, this one is going back to the 45 minutes a week on iReady. Is it okay to do more? I know you said recommended at the school level is 45 minutes. Is it okay to do more?
Always. It's always okay to do more, right? We just don't want to overwhelm our kids.
And then this one is about a little bit, not more struggling, but my daughter is in 2nd grade, but scored at almost a 4th grade reading level last school year. Would you suggest staying with those easier books to read, or push her to read harder books, or just let her find something she likes?
So I would say push forward, I mean, a good fit book has multiple things, right? We want to make sure it's on their appropriate level. So that would mean that we would want to push them a little further into a more challenging reading, set. But also we want to make sure that it's holding their interest. It's something that they have choice in and are picking out. So it's a balance. We definitely want to be able to push our kids and have them excel more and see that growth. But we also want to keep them engaged with it. If we give them something that is too hard or difficult to read at their level, then they may become disinterested in it. Now at school, we always promote the idea of reading on grade level and for our students who are excelling to push and read above grade level, because we want that productive struggle. Productive struggle means I'm challenging myself and I'm going to grow and move farther and faster. So that is something that we promote within the classroom. I just want you to be aware and balance it, right? We want to promote and push our students at home as well, but if they're getting it in multiple areas, we just don't want to overwhelm them. So it's a good fine balance. Just know and talk to your kid and figure out what they're interested in, and maybe find a book that's a little more challenging but still has the topics that they're into.
This is a suggestion for the attendees. This parent has found that it makes it easier to make certain Clever apps as favorites. It really helps with having them at the top of a Clever page. I have 4 e-learners, K through 4th grade, and an ESC baby. All right. How many assessments are done during the year?
It varies. It varies by grade level and it varies by subject area. But as far as 3 through 5 reading, which is what I can speak through the most, we do that iReady diagnostic, the Achieve diagnostic, and then the baseline. And then we redo those during mid-year as well. So there's a Form 2 that's directly aligned with the baseline. We reassess for the iReady and Achieve, and then we do an end of the year as well. So it's basically 3 assessments that we do 3 different times throughout the year.
All right, so I feel like that is all the questions. They said thank you. This was very helpful. So
Good. I'm glad. I'm so happy I could be able to connect with all of our families here and constituents here. I know we've faced a huge challenge this year just by, e-learning, and from the end of last year with COVID happening. So it's great to be able to communicate and talk about what's happening at home, what's happening at school, and being able to problem solve and talk about it together. So if you guys, if families, if you ever need anything, reach out to us. We want to be transparent and talk about what's going on in your child's education. We want your voice.
yes, and you all have my email. You will get the link to the recording to share with your family and friends, your neighbors, and always email me. I will direct you to the right department in our district. Or if you have interest in any other information that you would like to be presented, please email me. I love to hear from you as to what type of information you would like to hear. So with that, I want to say good night to everyone. Oh, there was one. Did you say that we could get the Achieve 3000 through Clever?
Yes, it's an app there and you can work on Achieve at home.
Perfect. All right. With that, I thank you all for taking time out of your busy evening to be with us, and let us know if we could be of any help. And thank you, Ms. Yaros, for doing this and taking the time out of your busy day to stay with us late to present to the family. So
yes, thanks
we
for
really
inviting
do
me.
appreciate you.
Yes, of course.
So good night, everyone.
Good night.